if you cheat death, then
It just
you're
comes
not
back.
you're not supposed to be here, so you have to kill someone else to take your place to keep the balance. That makes the most logical sense of any rule they've introduced. But the problem with the rule is, if Tony Todd's character knows this is a rule and this is a prequel, how come he does not disclose this information to Claire and Devon Sawa's character in part 1 or part 2? Why is this a rule here, but it's not a rule in the future movies?
So you want to know why? Because this Tony Todd is also older looking than he was in the later movie in 1 and 2. So what I think it is
oh no, don't do
I
it.
believe
He has
this
a twin.
Tony Todd.
He has a twin brother. Is that what you're saying? What are you trying to say?
No.
Oh god.
This Tony Todd is the same guy from the first 2 movies, but he somehow learned to time travel. When he learned the new rule of kill one to save yourself, he then time traveled back to give that bit of information to our new main characters.
This is so ridiculous. You might as well just said he's Candyman. All right. This is the most.
Well, he was probably trying to prevent Flight 180.
This goes above the Ghostface is an assassin theory. All right. You've hit a new level of ridiculousness you've hit with this.
Ghostface is a hitman, sir.
Oh god.
He is on the dark web looking for wet work as we speak.
Let's not get sidetracked into that. I just don't understand that if you're going to do a prequel, the one thing you have to be conscious is that any new thing you establish here has to sort of be present in the sequels if it's a prequel. So it's almost like he has the death rule, and then by the time we get to part 2, he's only telling them the new life rule, which I guess is a new rule that he figured out because he doesn't tell these characters that. So between this one and part 2, he learned about the new life rule, that replaced the death rule. I don't know.
Well, I feel like he brings up the new life rule mainly because he may be a coroner, but he doesn't want to see anyone die unless he's deaf.
This movie also, he gives a little bit more background about himself. He says I've seen this. I think he says I've seen this happen many times before.
Yeah.
This one. A lot of people theorize that he's like the original survivor. Like he was the first target who figured everything out. And now, but if that was the case, I would think he would have better rules that actually work to like tell the new people, because everything he tells them doesn't seem to work out in the end for them. They all die. So
well, let's face it. You're not. No one is supposed to be smarter than death.
Yeah. Cheating death is a temporary fix. It's a band-aid on a problem, but you're not actually fixing the wound. You're not clearing yourself. So if Tony Todd is the first survivor, I'd have to know how the hell did he survive. It's not one of these rules he's talking about, I don't think. But we'll talk about maybe the new life, maybe the killing somebody rule works. We'll have to get into it. All right, let's talk about our opening here because
it gives us characterization a little bit.
Yes, part 4. Let's not rush into the premonition. Let's first give us 5-10 minutes to breathe with the characters first. Give us some description of them. Let's get to know them a little bit, and let's ease into the premonition. Thank you, part 5. This does the slowest build to the premonition, I think, since the first movie. I think, honestly, well, maybe the roller coaster one had a little bit of build also, but definitely this was not as quick as part 2 and 4.
Well, let's go in with our characters' names of Sam, Molly, Peter, Olivia, Dennis, Nathan, Candace, and Isaac.
So we don't have characters such as racist or MILF or mechanic guy's girlfriend. There's actual names. Whoa.
And for one, that was Gearhead's girlfriend. Just like the racist dude's wife is racist wife.
This is already better written than the part 4. We actually have character names. Congratulations.
And there's also there's a total of 4 Easter eggs in this whole movie that at least that I picked up.
Okay.
One of them being the log truck from part 2.
As we all know by this time, and it should be ingrained in your psyche now, you see a log truck, you switch lanes. You actually get off the damn highway. You might take a new route, actually.
You'd think, but no, that doesn't happen. They just keep on driving.
Keep on driving because they're on some kind of work-related trip.
Yeah, some kind of a company event. I think it's a team building event because even Peter says to Candace he wants naked team building exercises.
Just to sum up what we learned, basically, Peter and Candace are a couple. Peter seems to be not in charge, but has a good position there.
Second in
There's
command, I believe.
second man. There's an overall boss character.
Dennis.
Sam and Molly are together,
Were.
but Molly basically breaks up with Sam before they get on the bus.
Correct.
Sam wants to go to Paris, but he's been offered a higher chef position in Paris.
Internship,
then,
actually.
Yes. And then
or apprenticeship, I mean.
Right. And the only thing I'm leaving out, I think, is
Olivia, who seems to be our little a rocker chick who's insecure about her glasses, even though I think she looks good with them on. And then you got Isaac, our creeping perv.
And let's not forget Nathan, who actually hates his he's the boss, but he hates one of his employees.
Well, it's mainly because his employee hates him. His name is Roy.
Yeah, he works more within the factory. So these are basically their coworkers. I would say they feel like a group of friends for the most part.
Which is weird because they're coworkers, but then you find out Sam has a cooking job as a sous chef. I'm like, why do you need this random Joe Schmo job here?
Yeah, him having another job is kind of interesting, but I don't know. I mean, they don't go into many details about that. I mean, the man's obviously very busy, working hard. He's saving for his trip to Paris, I guess.
I think he's saving for him and Molly's trip to Paris.
I hope it works out for these two crazy kids. Anyways, premonition time.
Yep, the bridge is collapsing and everyone is running for their lives. Unfortunately, Olivia is one of the dead. I got a tear. I don't care about Candace. Candace was mean to Olivia.
Well, Olivia gone too soon, and she had the torturous thing of losing her glasses, which means her eyesight was pretty much gone, and then having to cross over a thing without her eyesight, which was going to doom her pretty much no matter what.
I actually have an issue with the whole glasses bit. She was about to leave without them.
Yep.
So I don't know how bad her eyesight really is if she was planning on just leaving without her glasses.
I think they cut to her vision at one point, and it seemed like she was blind.
It seemed blurry, but you would think if her eyesight really looked like that, how come when she gets out of the van, she just starts walking away and her boyfriend's like, hey, you forgetting something?
Yeah, that is true. I wear glasses when I'm like looking at things far away, but even without them, I would be able to like cross a like I don't know. That is kind of interesting. I got a question about Death's design with these premonitions though, because okay. In this scenario of the premonition, it's this huge bridge disaster, which I have to commend because again, that's a fear for people. Like the earlier movies, it's something that people do get kind of nervous. If you're on a bridge and you're at like a high up bridge, you kind of get some thoughts sometimes like, man, what happened if this bridge collapses? So it's a real fear that they're digging into on like a stupid race car track. But basically the bridge collapses and most of the cars are pretty much just going down into the water pretty much where they die, right?
Yes.
That's how the death's supposed to be. With our characters we're following, none of them get like a generic death where it's like the car they follow to the water. They all get these like super like sort of specific, like extra painful, extra weird deaths. Is that just like if you're going to be the character that cheats death, the original thing was going to happen was not going to be you just like falling into the water with the rest of the crew. It's going to be like you're going to get some weird death where you're hanging on the bridge and a pipe, something comes out and stabs you or something like that. They all get very specific deaths, which is
I just want to say,
have you noticed that they don't get like a natural die in the disaster death? They get like a crazy death.
I just want to say, honestly, all their deaths didn't look that painful. It looked like insta deaths, minus Olivia.
They're insta deaths, but they're not like generic, like just like the bridge collapsed, so now you fall into the water. They all get very specific deaths, though. I
would rather get a specific quick death than I would rather falling into the water and then drowning.
Oh, no. I'm not saying what they would prefer. I'm just saying that it's like for the movie purposes that they're not one of the cars is just like that falls into the water. It has to be
Oh,
that these specific characters get like these crazy visual deaths, and they happen to be the ones that are also cheating death. It's just kind of like it's a weird thing that death like within Death's plan, I guess. I don't
well,
know.
I'm also assuming that all the there's a few other people getting specific deaths. It's just these are the characters we're following.
Because we see like 50 cars like just fall into the water pretty much. So
Yeah, but we also see
the majority of deaths are just normal bridge fall into the water deaths, it seems.
that we see. For all we know, like the construction workers, you got one that's using a saw. I guarantee you that saw probably cut him in half and eviscerated him, and all of his guts fell into the water. I mean, it's just characters we didn't see. We don't know exactly what their death really was.
Of these premonition deaths, I think I like Peter's death the most.
With the with the bars all impaling him and his eye kind of going wonky.
Yeah. I guess the key thing about this is that I think this is the first time also where like one of the main characters doesn't die in the premonition. Molly doesn't die.
Well, yeah, doesn't mean she's not going to.
Well, it begs the question of our character having the premonition dies. Does that mean that nothing happened afterwards? Like, do we know Molly survived on the bridge afterwards, or could she have died after the premonition? She could have. Right? We don't know.
Yeah, I feel like that's actually a good way to make a little mystery out of it. Is just because you didn't see her die doesn't mean that's where everything ended. The premonition ends when you died. So it makes a nice little mystery on if she's actually safe or not.
Because you think about it, you're like, okay, well, and you can drag it out for the entire movie because like, okay, if she did die, she'd still be last on the list because she was then the last one to die. But by the end of the movie, I'm really thinking about it, but it's an interesting new thing. So, but anyways, as we've talked about this also, when the premonition ends, Molly and Sam, unlike Race Car dude in the fourth one, they don't take like that long to react. Like he's off the bus and they're running. The rest of the characters, like for example, Nathan, he just sit there for like 5 minutes, like, what's going on? They wait until the bridge starts collapsing in the middle, and then those characters start running, which is very similar to like the premonition. Like they didn't get that much of a head start from where they were in the premonition, so you're kind of like,
how did they survive?
But then we just cut to them like right behind Sam and Molly. Sam and Molly get off the bridge, and then all of the characters are right behind them. Like, oh, they were running fast as hell. Apparently,
and that's funny because I don't think Dennis can run that fast. Nathan, yes.
Yeah. Well, they all get off the bridge, and of course, this always begs the question, like part one of the detectives who are like, somebody knew about this.
They must be evil.
Happened? Well, I don't understand the detective's questioning when he's questioning Sam. He's like, he's asking everybody like, oh, you guys broke up. Like,
was it messy?
And Sam makes the appropriate comment of like, what does it have to do with anything? It's like, what exactly does that have to do with it? Like, oh, she broke up with him, so he collapsed the bridge. What is he getting at exactly? Like, I don't understand.
Well, the point I would have made if I was Sam is, well, if I really did know, if I was involved with that bridge collapsing, why would I be there?
Yeah.
And two, why would I be getting people off screaming, run, get off the bridge?
The detective for like 3 minutes is like trying to pin murder on him, I guess. He's putting the clues together. And I'm like, this guy, he's like, oh, so you took the breakup hard, did you? I'm like, what the hell does that have to do with this investigation? What would that matter? Like, oh, in the moment, right before, if he had somehow done that, he would have had to plan that out like weeks in advance.
You'd have to constantly keep going to the bridge just to do something to it to eventually make it break like that.
She broke up with him right before they got on the bus. How would that in any way play into the events after that? I'm just like, okay, this is not Sherlock Holmes apparently, and he seems disappointed when the other guy comes in and is like, well, kind of natural causes. Like,
yeah, it was high winds and poor construction conditions.
The cop is like, son of a bitch. I really thought this guy was responsible. Like, I don't understand. He's like, oh, he was responsible because his girlfriend broke up with him. I don't understand the detective, but anyways.
By the way, this movie does something a little different also than the first two. Tony Todd's in this movie 3 times.
Finally.
Versus the 1 time he's in it 3, including the memorial service scene.
I think that whenever they do these like test screenings and feedback they get and all that, I think probably the feedback is always saying, give us more Tony Todd.
Well, he's the best actor in the entire series.
Well, he couldn't really be in the 3rd and 4th one. So it's like, this is a nice return for him back. And although he's coming along with new rules, which is kind of odd, but for being a prequel, he does say that, he's seen this many. I think he says I've seen it like many times before. Like this has been happening for a long time, and Tony Todd's character has seen it a lot. I guess. Was he involved? I don't know. We don't really know his backstory yet. The new one, Part 6, is apparently supposed to dig deeper into his backstory also.
Hopefully. I mean, it's still like early production, I believe, so the things are probably going to get muddled.
There's a rumor online that they filmed a collapsing apartment building, so a lot of people think that that's going to be the opening thing, is like an apartment building collapsing.
Even though I've always heard it's going to be a cruise ship.
That would be interesting too. I'm down with both of those.
Then again, I read something that said this movie's actually going to take place following. I've read multiple things about this movie. Like it's going to take place following EMTs that was in a building collapse trying to rescue people and they were supposed to die.
I read that a long time ago though, so I don't think that was with the new thing. I read about that a long time ago.
Yeah, the other thing I heard is it's going to be a complete reboot.
But that wouldn't make sense if you're using Tony Todd's character. Like every sequel is like a reboot because you're bringing in new characters. So it's like, what does that even mean for this series? So, what works very well about this movie is the death scenes.
Like this Candace's death
goes back to long, drawn out, tense death scenes that make you cringe.
Yeah, like Candace's, where somebody steps on a nail. How that nail decided to was Death just sitting there with a nail, just holding it up? It's like, can someone hurry up and slam their foot into this?
Ouch. This is a gymnast's worst nightmare.
Yeah, it is. And I assuming not as bad as a nightmare as what Candace got, though.
No, I'm talking about what happens to Candace is the gymnast's worst nightmare.
Oh,
like through some weird, wacky means, like you're flipping upside down and like some what is it? Not salt, but
powder,
chalk powder.
Yeah, chalk powder gets into you. And you mess up your form and you dive bomb headfirst into the thing, which I didn't know would break the bone in your thigh, but let's go with it.
I was a little bit suspect about the amount of force she hit the ground with. I know she's like flipping upside down and stuff like that, but she came down almost like she got thrown from a very high position. I mean, I guess I mean it basically seemed to completely discombobulate her.
I would see it breaking her neck. I wouldn't see it doing what it did to her. But I'm not a gymnast. Not to mention, you could tell that the action was sped up because there's no way she was going. She spun like 3 times before she actually hit the ground.
And the end result is a very CGI'd. Like the limbs are all like cut up and stuff. It's like I don't really see that happening, but okay, all right. Oh, but fantastic! Like nail biting death scene. I guess so.
You went about a nail, sir.
Oh yeah, well. So some good ones. We'll get her now. I liked Olivia until she made the comment of,
well, she deserved it.
Well, that's not that. She said more like, we should have saw who didn't see that coming. And basically just saying like, oh, like with gymnasts and what they do and stuff like that. But it's just a very inappropriate, weird thing to say.
So. Well, yeah, but let's also not forget Candace and Olivia definitely had a love-hate relationship. They love to hate each other because Candace honestly body shamed her. Don't know why she said it the way what she said. She's like, no, in order to get rid of that baby weight. It's like, lady, what baby weight? The woman is as thin as a 2x4. I
get it, but to me, when someone dies, the war is over. It doesn't mean you're still trying to get back at her after she's dead with that comment. So
I feel like Candace was Olivia's death.
Olivia could have taken the high road here and maybe not got the instant karma that she's about to get, but
Well, I feel
um,
like instead of death, it was Candace's spirit came down and lasered her damn eyeballs.
I'll tell you what, as somebody who has not great vision, I've researched like LASIK eye surgery and all eye surgeries basically. And I've always had a fear of them because 99% of the time they work out perfectly fine, but you hear about the rare times where it doesn't work out and people have problems and their eyes are always dry and they have to take eye drops for the rest of their lives and stuff. This scene did not help my cause in terms of getting over a fear of eye surgery. This makes me not want to avoid it for the rest of my life.
You know what another movie is that you makes you want to avoid eye surgery? The Eye.
I haven't seen that one. The Eye.
Character gets eye surgery, but their surgery is they're replacing their eyes with somebody else's, a donor's eyes. Well, that donor just happened to be a serial killer.
Wow.
And so the whole movie is her seeing like the spirits are coming for her because she's able to see the spirits with that eye.
Huh. Interesting. Well, I will not be watching that, sir. Because one day, if my vision deteriorates, I may be forced to get the surgery, and I don't want to have that on my mind.
Well, if it
as the
makes you feel
laser
better,
cuts my eye.
if it makes you feel better, the remake, Jessica Alba was in the remake.
It was a horror movie remake.
Yeah.
Nope. Doesn't make me feel better. I gotta. protect
Okay,
my-
just watch the Japanese version. Then that's going to be scarier anyway.
I'm gonna watch no version at all. I'm gonna put it in the bucket of the Final Destination of movies that I will not be watching again. All right, let's get to let's see.
Isaac was
Well-
actually to die between Candace and Olivia.
Isaac, who ends up being like this crazy jerk. Like, jeez.
Yeah, I don't know how he got the confidence to be able to talk the way he does. I mean, the guy looks like me, and I don't go up to any random hot woman and go, "Hey, babe, when am I getting that erotic massage?"
And plus, I mean, you got to read the room. You can tell by her reaction, like, this is not that kind of place. And he still keeps pushing. I'm like,
Well-
wow.
He doesn't even need a reaction. She literally told him.
Oh, yeah. She said it's a family establishment. He's like, so what about that happy ending? Like, Jesus, man. Get out of here. Your coupon doesn't give you a pass to be a jerk.
Well, funny thing is, then they bring in, I guess, this woman's grandma to take care of him.
Oh,
That was
this
hilarious.
was this was hilarious. I thought this
For
was
one, she was strong because she was tossing them all over the place, all over that bed.
Again, fun death scene. The difference in this and part 4 is that this movie is like giving time to its death scenes. It's letting them build out slowly. This movie is not in a rush. It's not trying to be an hour and 22 minutes like part 4. It's not in a rush, so we're getting solid, long, tense death scenes that I can appreciate.
Oh yeah, like Buddha falling on this guy's head. Never mess with fat guys.
It was a nice fake scare in terms of, oh, well, now I got away, and nope, still dead.
Well, apparently the original death for this character was he was supposed to be set on fire.
Oh, well, okay.
But they just went with the Buddha because the fire death wasn't gory.
Yeah, that's true.
Even though, to be fair, this Buddha death really wasn't gory because it was all animated CGI splat fest.
Yeah, but I would say the movie so far is 3 for 3. You have 3 solid death scenes. And who would be next would be Nathan. But we're going to first get that rule, that new rule.
Yep. Tony Todd comes in and tells him, life for a life. You were supposed to die, so you're going to have to replace your life with someone else's if you want to survive.
Which, again, to me makes the most sense of any rule that we've got in the series. It means that all of them are going to have to become killers.
Well, to be fair, when we get to the end of this, I got some theories about this.
Oh, we'll get there pretty quickly. But
that makes Death seem like a cheater. But, Death is Death. He can do whatever the fuck he wants, apparently.
well, in that scene where Tony Todd explained that, Nathan actually seems pretty skeptical. Like, he's like, I don't know what it is, but it's not what that guy says. But then as we cut to the next scene where he's in his factory, he's like super conscious of like everything around him. He's like, and then he calls Roy, who is his coworker he doesn't like.
Right. To talk to him about his time card, because Roy actually had on the time card. Fuck off.
Now, I'm watching the scene. I know afterwards he says what he says, but I didn't get the vibe that he actually like had Roy take his place or killed Roy. It seemed like he was actually trying to help him.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like an accident. It seemed like he was trying to get Roy away from the area. Roy's just too combative because he has 15 years of experience on Nathan. Ooh.
Like if Death is watching it with a clipboard and a paper, he's like making notes. He's being very kind to be like, all right, I guess that counts. You got Roy killed. I'm taking you off the list. He's like being very nice and loose with the rules to like actually count that. If I was Death, I'd have been like, you're not getting off that easy, buddy. You were not trying to kill him.
To be fair, there's a little twist there.
I guess Death actually would have more information though to be like, you think you got away? Okay, I got you, Death. I got you.
But
well, for now, Nathan's off the list for now. So,
but Dennis isn't.
Yeah, well,
Dennis gets that wrench to that face.
Outside of the perv dude, probably the other character you'd have to say is probably pretty unlikable in this movie.
I mean,
now he's dead. So,
yep. Well, now we get to our climax scene.
Hey, let's not waste any time here. Let's talk about the evil descent of Peter.
I mean, to be fair, probably should have mentioned it multiple times because it kind of shows his descent into madness throughout this, especially finding out that rule. He's like, okay, well now, if I want to survive, I just saw it work with Nathan.
There's a method to his madness because he thinks about killing a random person, pushing them in front of a car or whatever like that, or a bus.
Right.
He decides not to because he's like, hey, there's still some moral thing there where he's like, this person doesn't deserve it. But he does decide that Molly does deserve to die.
Yeah.
This ending gets kind of shaky for me because I'm following Peter's logic, sort of. He's like, what makes you deserve to live? I'm like, huh? Yeah. I determined that even though Peter and Sam are best friends, I guess Peter doesn't really have much relationship with Molly.
Probably not. I remember the love of Peter's life was Candace, and she went bye-bye. And that's really where the descent starts.
And Peter's really putting Sam in an awkward position because he's basically like, I'm going to kill you, Molly. And he's looking at Sam like, step aside, bro. Let me kill your girlfriend. It's like, it's a very awkward position you're putting Sam in. Peter.
And remember, Sam also just asked Molly to go to Paris with him.
Yeah. And so I get that Sam's like, man, Peter, I'm gonna have to kill you because you're trying to kill my girlfriend. Like, now, Detective Wise Guy, of course, comes into play.
Yep, and even though he heard gunshots, he's like, "Where is everybody?" It's like, dude, you want to be a detective for once in your life? No, okay, you want to get shot in the same hole 3 times? Because only one hole appears out of him out of the 3 bullets that went into him.
Now, here's my problem with the ending: is that
it's a fight scene. You don't like fight scenes. I know
that. I like good fight scenes. Yeah. Like John Wick, but
John Wick are boring fight scenes because they take too damn long. Remember, this is a horror fight scene. You're not expecting these characters to actually know how to fight.
No, I don't mind the fight scene. My problem is that up at this point, it's kind of like, okay, you can sort of understand where Peter's coming from. But when he kills the cop, I'm like, oh, everybody should sort of be happy here because Peter doesn't have to kill Molly now, and now he has the cop's life. But Peter then turns into like actual
villain,
weird criminal. He's like, oh, but you're a witness.
Well, to be fair,
come on, man.
To be fair, she is. You know what?
Yeah, but I don't think
federal officer can get you.
I don't think he
wasn't federal. He was a detective at a
precinct. But I don't feel like Peter would be thinking that in this case. If he's really just like, okay, there's a purpose there just to kill one person, him killing a second person now puts him into like maniacal serial killer territory. I'm like, come on, Peter, let it go. I mean,
No,
just
because then
basically
he's going to spend the rest of his life in a, again, he says federal, even though a detective is not federal, unless the detective was FBI. But I never saw that.
yeah, but the problem here is when you kill Molly, you then have to kill Sam too.
Well, Sam's already doomed to die, so what does it matter?
So Peter's going to kill 3 people. he
Pretty
went from
much.
not pushing one person from a bus to be like, you know what? I think killing 3 people would be better.
Yeah, pretty
Come
much.
on, that's a big
Well,
leap to make
to be
him
fair, it was
super villain guy at the end. That's a big
to be
leap.
fair, it was only supposed to be 2, but again, the detective had to show his face.
I don't think. Well, I think it was supposed to be 1. I don't think he ever intended to kill Sam.
I don't think he was still intended to kill Sam at all. I think after Molly, he still would have just walked away because again, Sam's on death's door.
But the same logic of, oh, Sam, you're a witness. You just saw me kill Molly. The same idea of like, I don't want to spend my life in prison would make him have to kill Sam too. The whole thing doesn't make sense. That's what I'm saying. That felt more like a criminal in a different movie being like, you just witnessed a crime. I'm going to kill you. That doesn't fit for a Final Destination movie. I'm sorry. Stupid. But
You could
it's
say that,
okay.
but it makes sense to me.
I don't think anybody's actually thinking that. I think Peter would just like run away at that point.
Nah, because again, if that was me, it's like, well, now I got my life back. However, the woman who's not supposed to die can easily go to the police and say, "Hey, this guy killed him."
Yeah, it doesn't mean she's going to now. You can just
You really
threaten her.
want to? You're saying you really want to test that? You want to spend the rest of your life in prison?
All right, Peter becomes a mass murderer at that era. I buy into it. Yes.
Well, to be
Whatever.
fair, it's still not a mass murder because he only killed 1 person. He's just a murderer.
I know, but he's planning to kill 3 though. He's gonna take everybody. But where it does work is because he's gonna kill Molly. Now we have Sam with the motivation to now kill Peter, which now triggers Sam to thankfully get Peter's life.
Which
Or
was,
maybe not. This is where the ending gets kind of weird though.
yeah, because to be fair, I don't think Sam technically got the life because the rule is you have to do the killing.
Yeah, Sam killed
So
Peter.
but does Block's life still technically, even though it's now Peter's, does Block's life now still go to Sam?
See, this is what I don't know. I don't know if when Peter took the cop's life, by Sam killing Peter, does it get Peter's life or does it get Peter's cop's life?
I feel like he gets Peter's life, which means he's still doomed to die.
So maybe this I thought about too. Yeah, maybe the taking someone's life doesn't work if you're doing it to somebody who's on the same list as you,
Mhm.
because that person is already doomed to die soon, anyways.
Yeah, so technically Peter was saved, but that was because of Block. But since Sam killed Peter, Peter's name originally being on the list, I don't think it counts.
It can't count because if it does count, then Sam should be safe now, and he's not.
Right.
But
Yep.
the
Now
other
that we found out.
the other hiccup is that maybe Sam is safe, but maybe Molly's the one that's not safe because we said at the beginning, maybe Molly did die on the bridge, and we don't know.
Well, she
And
was
now,
too dumb to move away from that corner that was clearly falling.
right? So maybe now Death is going to target Molly, and maybe Sam isn't being targeted, but him being close to Molly is what's going to kill him because Death, when killing Molly, is going to happen to kill him because he's in the same radius.
I mean,
I don't know. But
So actually, I do have a quick thing to say. What if, and this is me being slightly a dick to the happy ending that we don't get. But we see the same thing with Nathan and Roy. Roy had this blood tumor in his brain that was eventually going to go off and kill him. So Nathan's only days was just days. And I kind of feel like Death definitely has a major influence. He can't control people, but definitely has an influence on them. So what if Death influencing the detective in some way got the detective in that building just so then Death can add a detective to the list? That way, even if Peter got away scotch-free, Peter was still on the list, so Death wouldn't have to get rid of any kind of fallacies.
it's possible. I mean, Death has a lot of power in these movies, and there's certain death scenes where it's like, whoa, Death had to have seen the future to know that this death would then lead to this death in that way. So Death does have a lot of control and power. I don't know, man. I think that all that said, even with Death like conspiring to kill everybody at the end, and even me liking Sam and Molly, there's two red flags where I'm like, and it's not to say they deserved it, but one thing is, even, and I'll cite the first movie about this point, even if you felt like, okay, it's over, right? We got the best of Death, we cheated Death, we figured things out, we're no longer on the list. The movie cuts to 2 weeks later. Would you get on a plane 2 weeks later?
I mean, if you're going to Paris, it's either a plane or a ferry ride.
Yeah, but wouldn't you be a little bit more just hesitant to do anything risky like that 2 weeks later? I think so. I cite the first movie because in the first movie, something similar happens where we get our end and then we cut to a plane.
But that's 6 months later.
Which makes sense because the characters, as paranoid as Claire and Alex were, they weren't going to get on a plane 2 weeks later. They were like, they waited 6 months and said, hey, all right, it's been 6 months. We must have actually defeated this thing. And even then, in Paris, Alex still was like, wait a minute, this doesn't feel right. For them to get on the plane 2 weeks later feels a little bit like, you're kind of stupid there. But the other thing is, and you made this point too, when you watched it, once Sam sees Alex flipping out, that's an immediate like, oh shit, we got to get off this plane. They show Alex being taken off the plane. You can hear Alex, I think, even say like, something's going down. And Sam just sits back down and puts on a seatbelt. And I'm like, even though you didn't have a premonition there, you got the warning. The warning was Alex giving you the warning.
Right.
You can't sit back down there and put the seatbelt on and be like, nah, I think I'm okay. I can't wait to get to Paris. So there's two things there, getting on the plane 2 weeks later and then just being like ignoring the Alex thing. I still feel bad for them because this is not a happy ending at all. But make a note though that Molly dies on the plane before
Sam.
Before Sam.
And then Nathan gets crushed right immediately after.
So that means Molly, either Death had added to the list or she was originally going to die on the bridge, or Death just added to the list anyways, whatever. But she was on the list before Sam. Well, and then Nathan, of course, dead finally after that.
So now that we talked about the ending, just want to bring up one more theory, because you also brought up Death needs to know the future in order to plan out some of this stuff he has. Mm-hmm. And my theory is, what if Death is either connected to connected to fate in some way of being able to know this, especially if you're in Greek, if you believe in Greek mythology or it, fate has 3 sisters. You got Clotho, the spinner, who creates life. You got the Leshysis. I can't say the middle one's name. Okay. She pretty much extends the string, which is supposed to determine how long life is. Then you got Apothos, who ends the life by cutting the string. So in a sense, either Death is connected to them in some way, or Death is Apothos. And I think there's a possible chance that the premonitions are given to, the way I see it, probably by Clotho, who gives life. Because why would a fate that gives life want to see the life taken away before it's actually needed to?
Interesting. Okay. That makes sense. I'm with that.
Now, granted, part 6 is probably going to throw that out the water, but who knows? We'll find out, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, guess we can get to our final thoughts. Let me pull up the rating system here.
All righty. Well, since I went first last time, you can go first this time.
Final Destination 5. I think that it's a welcome step up from part 4 for sure. To get to the 5th movie of the series and to have a quality product is very difficult. You can think about Seed of Chucky, Halloween 5, A New Beginning. There's a lot of series where the 5th movie is actually like terrible.
Dream Child.
Yeah, it's actually part 5 is probably usually pretty bad in most series, I would say. But this movie is it's solid, honestly. I think it has 3 really outstanding death design sequences with LASIK Olivia, LASIK Olivia,
LASIK Olivia. Okay.
Gymnast Candace, and pervert, whatever his face is.
Isaac.
Isaac, yeah. So 3 great sequences. The main characters are likable enough, and we get a lot of Tony Todd, which is always a welcome thing. The only slight thing I would say is that I don't think, even though I like Sam and Molly, I don't think they're as strong as the 2 from part 3, and I don't think they're as strong as the 2 from part 1. So I think the main characters aren't as strong as that, but they're better, I think, than part 4, and probably on par with part 2's main characters. So think honestly, I'm gonna still give it 3 stars because there's really nothing for me that brings the movie down greatly. I can definitely see myself being able to watch this on repeats. I think the series itself is like a 3-star series. I think you have just one big screw up with part 4, but overall, I think it's a 3-star series. So I'm gonna stay pretty consistent with it and give it 3 stars.
Well, let's see. My way of doing this is I like the character. The acting was good. The deaths were pretty good. Especially the tension, and as much as I'm not a big fan of CGI, the CGI was definitely better in this one compared to the previous one. Still would have been better with practical effects, but you get what you can get. And I do like that just like part 3, we kind of this time we get a real villain in a sense with Peter finally going insane.
True.
The only downsides I really have with the movie, honestly, even though I feel like he was needed for the ending, is the detective.
Yeah.
The detective pissed me off every time he was on screen.
It was just stupid. He was the worst detective ever.
And the movie definitely can give you some questions that you can then go ahead and answer yourself, have some fun with theorizing. And again, as you said, Tony Todd's always a welcome actor to see in any movie. So overall, I can't give it a 3. I didn't care for it as much as part 3. I cared for it a little bit more than 2, but I can't give it a 2.75, so I'll just give it a 2.5.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And yeah, I mean, it leaves me looking forward to part 6, honestly. I'm interested to see where they take the mythology, if they add more rules, interested to know more about Tony Todd's background. I think part 6 should be should be a fun movie for sure, hopefully.
Oh yeah, I want to see it in theaters if it comes out to theaters.
But not if
it's a 3D.
movie.
So far, every movie has come out in the theater, so I don't know why part 6 wouldn't.
Oh yeah, it's coming to theaters. The last one made 157 million. Yeah, it's coming to theaters.
As always, you don't have to go home. You do got to get yourself one of these Jason mugs because Jason Brains plus chocolate milk tastes like delicious candy.
Huh.